The fearless leadership approach is a path to transform your organization's culture. The complex world has created tenuous, if not perilous, barriers to organizational effectiveness. Leaders today are navigating in the waters of a very complex business environment and must employ a range of interpersonal, conceptual, and strategic skills to keep the organization on a chartered course. Leadership requires a new paradigm to improve talent recruitment, employee engagement, and performance management. How are you as leaders and managers rising to that challenge? You have the power to change people's lives. During times of rapid change, when current thinking and actions are no longer effective, the fear of change and failure can be a threat to an individual's reputation and to the organization. W. Edwards Deming's 8th management principle is to drive fear out of the workplace. And he further states, with fear, we don't have the ability to serve the best interest of the company. In this presentation, I will address the topic of fear in the workplace and identify a strategy to build trusting relationships at every level in the organization. I'll contrast the leadership styles in a fear-based culture with those of a culture transformed by trust. And finally, I'll provide insights on how you can recognize the fear-based behaviors in an organization and solutions to build trust in the workplace. I hope to challenge your thinking, as there's absolutely no benefit to using fear to motivate employees at any level in the organization. The fearless leadership approach is a path to transform your organization's culture. As leaders and managers, can you imagine a workplace where your associates are engaged and inspired at work and relationships are built on high trust? What would the energy be like in the organization? Associates are the ambassadors of your organization, and the success of your business is built on a foundation of engaged and inspired colleagues. Based on my 10 years of research and over 1,000 interviews, 64% of the employees believe that fear is present to some degree in all organizations. The fear of change, failure, taking a risk, declining revenue, speaking up at a meeting, the news of a potential layoff or merger can be detrimental to organizational performance and effectiveness. More importantly, fear-based behaviors associated with those events paralyze employees and leads to loss of trust throughout the organization. A fear-based culture will deplete pride, undermine quality, reduce profitability, and stifle productivity. Fear also can impact how we use our skills to communicate, make decisions, inspire others, build teams, and resolve conflicts, all to the detriment of the organization. Today, employees want to be inspired by leaders in an environment that gives their lives meaning as they seek organizations whose vision and values create a culture based on a foundation of trust. Why will some employees avoid their leaders and managers at all costs, while others are inspired by their leaders? There are many conditions that can promote fear in the workplace. Micromanagement, hidden agendas, internal competition, unethical behavior, withholding information, hostile relationships, and bureaucracy. These conditions have a detrimental effect on performance, resulting in disengagement, poor communication, diminished quality of work, and delays in service. And by the way, there's a high cost associated with fear-based behaviors, as objectives are often neglected, resources are wasted, turnover and absenteeism continue to rise due to high levels of stress. As productivity declines, more and more policies and procedures are put into place and are developed to attempt to control the downward spiral of performance. A potential solution to reduce the cost is to promote new ideas that eliminate fear in the workplace and will improve associate engagement. Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." And I wonder if we truly understand the implications of his statement and what fear has done. Deming also stated the economic losses from fear are appalling. When a culture is fear-based, leaders also exhibit behaviors and characteristics in this environment. They retaliate against those who make mistakes, are impatient, and frustrated, often behave unethically, and may use inaccurate reporting. They don't want to hear the bad news and publicly criticize those that bring them the truth about difficult situations. They set unrealistic timelines and expectations of their teams and often abuse power by blaming and discrediting employees. They usually operate in a panic mode and they make all the decisions. So here you have a leader who uses their skills to create a toxic workplace. The natural evolution is that when employees work for this type of a leader, they often mirror the leader's style that supports the culture. Their communication is often guarded and conflicts are resolved with a win-lose mindset. In this environment, employees undermine change, sabotage projects, which leads to poor results. Teams are dysfunctional and the individuals are focused on themselves versus the team. Panic sets in as deadlines are missed, leading to poor performance. Employees are motivated, keep their heads down, stay out of the leader's way, even in the executive suite. There's the fear of not only making a mistake, but disclosing it. No one is inspired to work in this type of environment or for this type of leader. I have found employees that are preoccupied with fear are engaged in survival behaviors. My belief is that until we have a foundation of high trust at every level, organizations will still be plagued with the same challenges they're faced with today. There are organizations focused on changing the culture and creating an environment where relationships are built on trust. It requires a new way of thinking about leadership and the relationships in the organization. Leaders realize their future success is tied to engaged associates. They're called associates instead of employees, as they are dependent upon one another. They're not your associates, by the way. We're no longer in the feudal system. So there are many characteristics of inspired associates in the workplace. They're friendly, cordial, respectful, and considerate, with a genuine willingness to help each other. They're knowledgeable, valued for their skills and contributions. They challenge and govern themselves, holding everyone to high ethical standards. They celebrate accomplishments and learn from mistakes. I invite you to examine the consistent financial results of companies such as Costco, Caterpillar, IKEA, Whole Foods, Johnson & Johnson, DaVita, and a host of other companies who built their foundation of success by trusting their associates. Interactive Associates, in conjunction with Human Capital Institute in the report Building Trust 2013, discusses organizations who reinforce strong leadership, trust, and collaboration enjoy superior financial performance. Revenue, growth, profitability, customer loyalty, operational efficiency, market competitiveness, and other measurements have increased when organizations focus on building trust at every level compared to their peers in similar industries. From the top down, a conscious and intentional effort is made to build trust. In a trusting environment, leaders use their skills to communicate the vision openly to associates. They guide the organization into the future. They resolve conflicts and solve problems for the benefit of all the associates. And they foster consensus thinking and engage everyone to participate in change processes. Teams are inspired to go beyond just getting the job done by connecting with the members on a higher level. They have a high level of emotional intelligence and exhibit compassion and empathy for everyone. These leaders are authentic and genuine and use power and influence to provide resources to forge relationships while holding everyone accountable for results. They are visible and transparent. Leaders and managers are human with feelings and emotions. Challenges can create worry, anxiety, concern, and doubt with all the symptoms of fear. In a culture of fear, we tend to respond negatively and become defensive, vindictive, angry, close-minded, hateful, and even abusive. Have you ever noticed these symptoms and behaviors in your workplace? When you and your associates behave this way, how can you be productive and engaged in work? It's almost impossible. There is a solution to managing fear and building trust. When you experience these symptoms and behaviors, I'd like you to use a 6-step process called action. When you are angry, defensive, and responding negatively to someone or something, A is to acknowledge your thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you're experiencing. They are real. C is to concede that when you respond negatively to someone, something, with anger, hatred, or jealousy, you are responding with fear. Fear is now in control of your responses. T is to tell your mind to release the fear so you can receive the appropriate guidance. You may have to do this several times to get your peace of mind back. It will remove the barriers that are created by fear. I is to invite the guidance the mind gives you. If you don't know what to do, when or how to do something, that's your guidance. Use the guidance and rely on it every day. I do. O is to observe and be aware that when you're coping with fear, when you start negating the guidance with, that doesn't make sense, that can't be right, I'm not sure, these are indicators that you're not using the mind correctly when you start to analyze and doubt. Finally, N is to note the new information or the guidance that you'll receive and will be at peace with it. Recognizing and managing fear is a powerful and transformational skill that must be practiced to become a natural part of your thought process in order to change behavior. Be aware that when you respond to someone or something negatively with anger, hatred, jealousy, these are the indications that you're responding with fear. Make a simple adjustment and ask the mind to release the fear. This powerful discipline will let you trust yourself and start to build trusting relationships with others. Over 70% of the senior executives of the Fortune 500 companies meditate daily. When you build trust, a whole new world opens up. You're no longer afraid of closed-door meetings and taking a risk, embracing change, meeting expectations, and even having a conversation with a difficult associate. As leaders, you can direct your thoughts to reframe your thinking. Some of the thought changers I use are, I've handled difficult situations and challenges with colleagues, customers, and board members with peaceful outcomes. It's not me that they're upset with, it's the pressing issue. I don't need to control everything and always be right. I'll rely on others. So what is your personal commitment? What will you do differently today, tomorrow, and in the future with this new skill and the powerful approach to building trusting relationships? A friend and colleague writes, inspired associates develop inspired teams leading to inspired organization. A key step in overcoming and managing fear in building trust is to openly acknowledge that fear does exist and to put it on the table so you can address it. Courageous conversations are required at every level that fear does exist, and there are visible signs, and when leaders become defensive, yell at one another, rigid in their thinking, and close-minded to new ideas. It can paralyze your team from any rational thinking. Discussing fear is not a sign of weakness. Not discussing fear is a sign of personal and professional failure. High-performing organizations understand that trust is the bond of engaged relationships. Leaders are learning that a culture of trust will improve productivity, profitability, customer service, quality, and many other metrics. The challenge requires a new paradigm for leaders to possess a vision of what can be, based on operating from a foundation of trust. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope I have challenged your thinking as to what can be. I welcome the opportunity to share this message with your organization and can be reached at yagosassociates.com. Have an inspiring journey.